Hello, and a very cold morning today. It's Saturday the 17th of December and we all know what day that is. It's another rail strike day. However, myself and Graham behind the camera are still venturing into London today. And as you can see behind me, we are at the end of the line. And the location, we're at Chesham station on the Metropolitan line. So we're going to visit about 6 stations today, 3 on the Metropolitan and 3 on the Central line. So we're going to try and get that done as much as we can, albeit possibly with some delays involved as well. But nonetheless, join us again as we go down the line, as we go exploring the London Underground. So, being at Chesham, we're actually in Buckinghamshire. Now, if you remember a while ago when I did my Aylesbury to Marylebone, I mentioned this station and I did mention that I will be coming here. Probably not for the reasons that we're here for today, however, but we are currently in fare zone 9 with this train coming in behind me. This is actually one of the western terminuses for the Metropolitan line. As a matter of fact though, this is actually the furthest station from central London on the entire underground network. And as you can see, this goes all the way back towards Aldgate. Now, as we can say it, the next station from here is Chalfont and Latimer, and that is where the line converges from the other terminus, which is Amersham. So, what are we going to be doing today? As I said, we've got 6 stations on offer. We've got Chesham, where we are now. We've got Baker Street, Farringdon, where there is a spooky story to tell. And also on the Central line, we've got Bethnal Green at Stratford, and then going to the Leashu station, which is Roding Valley. So, our train is here, and we are going to get on board, but without mentioning one thing. You mentioned that there was a signal box there, however. This is actually a Grade 2 listed station for its architectural and historical interest, and you can see why. So I will cut away and give you some of the history on Chesham.
Chesham was opened in 1889 by the Metropolitan Railway as the company's temporary northern terminus when the line was extended from Rickmansworth. Interestingly, the line was intended to be extended to Tring to link up with the West Coast Main Line, but they decided to choose an alternative route across the Chilterns via Aylesbury. There was also a goods yard which closed in 1966, which is now the station car park and Waitrose. When the line was electrified, a bay platform was added, but it proved to be unnecessary and closed in 1970.
So, on board the train now. It's just going to be stationary here before we make our way. So as I mentioned, the next station is actually Chalfont and Latimer, and it's actually the biggest gap of stations on the underground network. I think it's around about 3.89 miles. But nonetheless, as I mentioned, that is where it converges with the line at the terminus for Amersham. Now, when you do get onto Chalfont and Latimer, that is when it's a non-strike day, of course, you get the mixture of Chiltern Railway services. Now, they are still running today, however, but the services stop at 4:20 from Marylebone. So for me and Graham, who are going to be there till at least 6, it's not going to work. So driving from Milton Keynes to Chesham is probably our easiest way here. So, and with a travel card, we can just go out and explore as best as we can. But no, it's going to be pretty good. Along the way, like I said, the next station will be Baker Street. So we're just going to wait for this service to warm us up a bit first, and then make our way over there. So the next station is Baker Street, and we will see you there.
As we departed Chesham, it didn't feel as though we were on an underground service. For me, however, I have experienced the line from Amersham when I did my Chiltern journey to Marylebone, but for Graham, this was his first time experiencing this.
Welcome, we are on the Metropolitan line. We have just left Chesham, and it just feels weird going on the London Underground, just leaving Chesham out in the middle of Buckinghamshire. You wouldn't think, being out in the middle of Buckinghamshire countryside, that would be on an underground train. It just feels really strange. I just can't describe it. It just feels really weird and strange. But it's an experience, and one I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping it will be a good one. So I'm always up for anything new.
As a matter of fact, I have to agree with Graham, and weird is definitely the term that I would use for it as well. But there were some great views of the Buckinghamshire countryside, and the snowy landscapes helped in adding to that. It wasn't until we got to Wembley Park station, however, where the train filled up and the city began to take over, and then after actually going underground, we reached our first stop, Baker Street.
Right then, so after just about an hour and 14 stations from Chesham, we have finally arrived into the capital. Now, as you saw on the journey, it took a while actually to go from the countryside into the city setting, but however, we are here at Baker Street. So, a little bit about Baker Street while we're here. So, we have started in Zone 9 and we are now all the way into Zone 1. So it just puts into perspective the journey that we have had. Not only that, it was actually one of the first underground stations to open. Graham told me, I think he said it was the home of Sherlock Holmes, if I'm not mistaken by that. So a bit of detective work is in order here. And not only that, Baker Street actually has 10 platforms, which makes it the station on the underground with the most platforms. So, there's plenty to see here, as well as, you've got the announcements of course, but you've got the Metropolitan line, Circle and Hammersmith and City. So there's plenty to go from here. Let's have a little look around before we head on to Farringdon.
Baker Street opened in 1863 and is the combination of 3 separate stations, with the 5 lines on different underground levels. In 2015, as part of the Transport for Design programme, Londoners voted on Baker Street's platforms as one of the 10 favourite transport design icons.
So another interesting point about underground stations is their tiling. Now, if you're just an everyday commuter, you probably don't pay that much attention, but every station that you go to, they have their own characteristics. And with Baker Street, as I mentioned with Sherlock Holmes, and as I step back, they've got their own tiling dedicated to the man himself. So that's a great touch, and like I said, it separates the stations and gives them their own individuality, which I think is important. So Baker Street, all done, back onto the platform, and like I said, onto Farringdon for the next one.
Another cool feature I found was this map of the Metropolitan line, illustrating things that you can come and see and do. And as our next service arrived into the platform, it took us to another station packed full of railway history.
Okay, so further eastbound now, and we are now at Farringdon. Still in Zone 1, mind, but this station has a tremendous amount of history. It is also one of the oldest currently used underground stations in the world. And also, one thing I also love about underground stations is that you come across these. It's London Underground history boards, and it gives stations their own individual heritage. Now, this is based on signalling, and it obviously goes for about, having a good signalling system. And it says about the earliest signals used on the railway were a semaphore system. Now, from my own memory and the quickest thing I can think of, semaphores that I'm used to seeing do not go on the West Coast Main Line, but they do go operate on the Hope Valley line, which is what I go to quite often. So there's a link there, so I kind of know how that works. I think with the Great Western, however, they were opposite to the other lines, which is a bit odd. So definitely, if you do have time on underground stations, check these out. Okay, so I've come to a darker part of the station to tell you a haunted story. Now, it dates back to 1758, involving a lady called Anne Naylor. Now, she was murdered by her employer, and allegedly her body was dumped on the site where Farringdon Station is now standing. So, I want to get this done before the train arrives, but apparently this station is haunted with a ghost and screams even being heard. So, very, very spooky, and I would not like to be here by myself.
Farringdon opened in the same year as Baker Street, but this station also includes national rail services from Thameslink to places like Peterborough, Luton, Rainham and Brighton, along with the new Elizabeth line station that you can catch just by simply walking across the street. And after a spot of breakfast and a changeover at Liverpool Street, we left the Metropolitan line behind for now and went on to the Central line as we reached Bethnal Green.
Right then, so now we are in the east end of London, Bethnal Green, and this station, believe it or not, has a quite a big associated history with World War II. It was actually used as an air raid shelter, and to be fair, a few others were as well. But unfortunately, this station has a traumatic past in regards to that, as it actually had the largest loss of civilian life in World War II in the UK, which was 173 people that were killed here in a crush. Now, you can just imagine, bombs are raining down, the sirens are going off, and it causes panic, and we're lucky that we don't see things like that anymore. However, you can just imagine the time that was. Yeah, we're here at Bethnal Green. We'll have a little look into what else, but there is a clock that I do want to show you. When you are visiting Bethnal Green, however, there's probably one thing that you haven't spotted, and on the Underground there are clocks everywhere. But did you know, at this station, the clock, instead of numbers, it has the Underground logo instead, and I think that's pretty cool. Not only that, however, Bethnal Green has a rich criminal history as well. It has also been believed to be true that Jack the Ripper, back in his reign of terror, was operating on the western end of Bethnal Green, and also in the 1960s, the Creighton twins, Ronnie and Reggie, both lived here. So there's definitely, you can also get some tours in regards to that as well. That might be very interesting to do one day as well, on a day out. But Bethnal Green, there's more than just here.
If you love your history, then places like Bethnal Green and Whitechapel will be right up your street. And after a 20-minute wait due to a delay over by West Ruislip, we headed on a couple of stations to the ever-busy Stratford. And there was a nice surprise waiting for us, but could we get across to see it in time?
Well, albeit it's a strike day, we got off the Central Line and saw a GBRS 66, and we rushed over and it left. Very rude, but there it goes. Nonetheless, we're at Stratford now, and this actually is the 5th busiest station in the UK. And in terms of London, in terms of their zonage, take out Zone 1, this is actually the busiest station outside of Zone 1. Now, like I said, it is a strike day, but there are still a lot of people here, mainly, of course, for what is to my left, which is the Westfield Shopping Centre. Not only that, just a few yards worth, it's about 400 metres or 400 yards, one of the two. There it goes. So you've got Stratford International as well, which is obviously the clue to the name. You can go international from there. But yeah, the snow is still down, and to be fair, from when me and Graham were last here, this station is empty of trains but full of passengers, and make of that what you will. But this is a huge junction here. You can get many services, so when it is actually operational, you've got the likes of Overground, Underground, DLR, you've got Greater Anglia, and also you've got C2C that come here as well. I think I've got them all correct, but nonetheless, we'll get a few more shots of Stratford, and then hopefully make our way to Roding Valley. That one is in doubt, but we will try our best.
Even though it's a Saturday, this is definitely the quietest I've ever seen Stratford Station, albeit for very obvious reasons. But it's not the 5th busiest station in the UK for no reason, and you should come and see it on a non-strike day. But with our journey nearly coming to an end, there was one last changeover point to go through, and as this is now the furthest east I've been on the Central Line, I was very impressed with what I saw.
Right, we're not at Roding Valley just yet. We're now at Woodford Station, so we're having to change here to get the shuttle that goes towards Hainault, and obviously get off at the next stop after here, which will be Roding Valley. And yes, I'm squinting because the sun is directly in my eye, but we make do. But nonetheless, bear with me, and then we'll be at Roding Valley. What time is it?
It's Roding Valley time.
Right, so now we have made it to the end of our journey, and what a day it's been. So we are now at Roding Valley Station. So we're still on the Central Line, but this is part of the Hainault Loop. Now that's what I said, we got off at Woodford and then we got on the loop from there. So we're just going to wait for the train to head down to Hainault, come back up, and then take us back to where we came from. But nonetheless, this station actually is the least used station on the entire underground network, and at the last count it had 370,000 entries and exits. However, you can see behind me, I can count at least 6 more people other than me and Graham, and there was about 4 that left on either side. So as a matter of fact, there's probably been about 14 to 16 people here in just a short space of time. But then again, compare that with the rest of them, it's extremely quiet here, and to be fair, the passengers that this gets in a year, most stations get in a day. But nonetheless, we're going to have a little look around Roding Valley before we sign off and end our lovely adventure from Chesham.
Even though track was laid here by the Great Eastern Railway in 1903 on its Woodford to Ilford line, Roding Valley opened in 1936 by LNER and became part of the Central Line on the 21st November 1948.
Okay, so even from walking from one end of the platform to the other, there's a group of another 8 people. And to be fair, I said to Graham back at Woodford that I would be stunned if we were not the only ones at the platform, and that has been totally smashed. So how wrong was I? But nonetheless, so if you see just up the curve there, that is where the loop starts, and the rest of the line going up heads towards the terminus of Epping. Now, if you're going to go to Epping, for you Preservation Railway fans, you can get the Heritage bus from there, which operates, and you can go to the Epping and Ongar Railway. Never been there, but Graham suggested that we should actually do that at some point, so fantastic idea. But no, I tell you what I do like is that when you are stood at the platform and you look towards the left, back down towards Hainault, there is a very long straight, and you can just slowly watch the Central Line train just move off into the distance. And I think that's quite cool. It's quite a good quirk, I think, compared to, with the Central London tube stations where it's just tunnel and in it comes, out it goes, and that kind of thing. But I must say, Roding Valley is a very, very charming station, and I do really like it. I don't know about you, Graham.
Absolutely love it.
There we go. Both a fan. Well, I said that was a great view, didn't I? But now it's time to wrap things up. It's getting quite cold now as well. But no, I tell you what, from Chesham to Roding Valley, it's been a distance of approximately about 40-45 miles, and all in all taking us about 2 hours and 20 minutes with a little delay at Liverpool Street. Albeit there were strikes, we haven't really had any effect of that. Obviously that's more National Rail side of things, but all in all it's been a very, very good day, and we've learned so many things and seen different types of station. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that as well. Another informative video, trying to mix it up a bit, but nonetheless. So no, and I just want to say thank you to Graham, who's been a very, very handy cameraman today. He's appeared a couple of times, but nonetheless, it's always a pleasure with him. And again, like I said, thank you very much. And next time, I think might be a day in crew for me next week. So keep an eye out for some videos coming out from relation to that. Also, we're going to be disclosing and discussing East West Rail. So there's plenty more to come from down the line, that is definitely for sure. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to check out the other ones. You won't be disappointed, in my opinion, of course. But nonetheless, I will see you next time down the line.